I want to first start off this video by saying one thing, because sometimes I see comments not just on my own channel, but on other channels and also even over on the forums when people are actually raising valid concerns for a product that they're paying for. Comments like, "This is just negativity," or "All you people do is moan and complain." If you enjoy playing a game and you're passionate about said game and you want to see it grow and improve and become something better, there's nothing wrong with giving constructive feedback. Train Sim World is not perfect by any means. If anything, it's very far from it. This is literally the only way that this game is going to improve, is if its consumers hold the company accountable. I'm not going to go into many details in this video on why I personally think that West Coast Mainline South isn't up to par for standards, especially this being their flagship route that they're pushing out to launch Train Sim World 5. I talked about a lot of those concerns in my previous video. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you check it out. But today we're going to be talking about a response that Dovetail Games has made in response to a lot of the feedback that they've received, which in my opinion is valid criticism. It's constructive criticism. So before we get into that, I do want to quickly cover the whole licensing and branding issue with LNWR. So I talked about how the licensing was removed. I mean, we don't know why, but of course, Train Sim fans, not all, but some, have reached out to LNWR on their own terms, which is definitely not a good idea. This is, in my opinion, going to be more hurtful than helpful, especially in the future if they ever do want to try to get this license in the game. Senior Community Manager Alex writes over on the forums, "Hello folks, we've noticed a few members of the community have reached out directly to LNWR about the details of the licensing content with the West Coast Mainline after our update yesterday. We'd like to ask that players please do not do this. We appreciate your desire to help and support the game, but there's a couple of reasons why this isn't the best course of action. Firstly, it's unlikely those people on the social media channels will be aware of the details. Their channels are designed to help and support their customers rather than manage concerns relating to licensing or intellectual property. Yeah, especially for a video game. Those people probably don't know literally anything about this game if they're running those social media channels. For the people actually doing this, you're talking to the wrong people and you're honestly giving the game a really bad look. That's just something you're going to have to let Dovetail deal with." He also writes, "Secondly, it's possible that campaigns like this may actually have an adverse effect on the licensor's likelihood of wanting to partner with us both right now and in the future." Exactly. Again, not only does it make the game and Dovetail look bad in terms of securing licensing, but it also makes the community look bad too. Please do not do this. I mean, for potential future routes that I would enjoy in Train Sim World, for example, Northeast Corridor legs that involve SEPTA licensing or Mark licensing, I'm not going to go out of my way as a Train Sim fan or as a player to reach out to these brands and ask, why don't you do this, or you should do this. That's not going to solve anything at all. And if those responses left by players are seen by those that are involved in making those types of decisions for licensing in video games, it's just gonna make it less likely that we even see that in the future if there even is a chance. Alex finishes with, "So whilst we appreciate the gesture, we'd ask you to please let our internal teams, who are experts at this sort of thing, continue discussions, and we will update you if anything changes. As a note, the branding on the Class 350 will not be in before launch, and we're unsure at this stage whether it will be in the future." Honestly, at this point, I would just expect that it's not going to happen at all, especially if we have players reaching out to these companies on social media, asking them or begging them or even questioning them why it's not there or was taken out. So going back to the topic of feedback for West Coast Mainline South, Alex did actually respond to it. It's a very short and vague response, and I honestly kind of think that this is probably just something that he just has to say for now until they say something further. I really do hope they say more because nothing is really addressed in here, especially all the points with, suspension being missing on a logo when they told us all TSW5 stuff will have suspension at launch. He writes, "Hey folks, thank you for the extensive feedback we've seen today. We just added a comment regarding your responses from the West Coast Mainline preview as a pinned message in the forums for everyone to see. Thank you again. We're excited to bring the West Coast Mainline into TSW and we'll do what we can to support the new route alongside your collective feedback. Following the West Coast Mainline preview live stream last night, we want to acknowledge that we've seen some of you provide really useful feedback and responses from the community to help our teams make the route the best it can be, which we are grateful for. Just to set expectations correctly for the launch of TSW5, we are working to understand if any improvements can be made prior to the release on September 17th. Honestly, I'm gonna say it here, I don't expect much to change before the release. We're less than 2 weeks away now from early access and less than 3 weeks away from the official release. I don't even think much is gonna change between early access and the official release. And I also wanna address a lot of people saying this is still in development, this is still early previews, it's going to change before release. Again, we are 2 weeks away from this game coming out, guys. How much do you possibly think is going to change from now until release? I'm calling it now. It's going to launch exactly the same way we saw it in the preview stream, maybe minor touch-ups, but I don't see them doing much with the lighting, which was horrendous in some spots. Missing OHLE, I hope that's patched in before release, but again, not expecting that. It's already confirmed that the missing suspension for the Class 350 is not going to be in for release. That'll be in a post-release patch sometime, so I mean, is it really going to be much different? I think it's time we stop making excuses and start holding companies accountable because it's, again, unacceptable. Alex continues, however, our teams have heard your feedback for the West Coast Mainline route as well as the content included, and we are reviewing areas we can address for potential post-release updates. Something we can confirm coming after launch will be suspension improvements for the new Class 350, Class 377/2, and the 1972 stock, which we were unable to highlight during our preview due to the issues when testing and implementation. Also, they don't address the timetable at all in this, and I was seeing a lot of comments and responses over on the forums about how a lot was left out for the timetable, more specifically the local running services. Not only did they not address that, but I don't think that's going to be something we really see much improvement on from now until release either. I'm not being negative, I'm just being realistic. Our teams would love to confirm a date for when you can expect these changes, but we also want to ensure our promises stay managed and allow our development teams a chance to review possible day one patch information if needed, but we will keep you updated across community spaces. Thank you for your comments. We're excited to bring the West Coast Mainline into TSW, and we'll do what we can to support the new route alongside your collective feedback. Honestly, it's the best response that I expected from them. I really didn't think they would address more. I just hope that we hear more this coming week, of course, before the next preview and before early access starts, because if this is what we're going into with our other routes as well, then it's gonna be a really rough launch for TSW, though the German content, in my opinion, has been really good, so I think the German route will probably end up being the best on release, and it sucks because I was really looking forward to the UK stuff. And with time, it will likely improve with patches, but we just shouldn't be this far behind 2 weeks before release. I'm interested in your thoughts on these responses from Dovetail about the very much so valid criticism that's been raised over on the forums and of course on social media following the first official preview stream for West Coast Mainline South. That's gonna be it for me, and that will conclude this video. Of course, if you guys enjoyed watching, found this informative or entertaining, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I want to thank you all for being here. Take care and happy rail simming.